Welcome to the LDHR Podcast, where ministry leaders grow together. Over the next few months, we will be releasing episodes intermittently alongside our other series to talk about growing on purpose, highlighting the people and pathways for growing where you are and with what you've been entrusted. Through these episodes, you'll hear from people with insights and practical steps that you can apply right away. You'll also have the opportunity to find out more about the resources that are available to you and how you can intentionally grow on purpose wherever God has you. Come on in and listen. We're so glad you're here. Dennis Metcalf, welcome to the LDHR Podcast. I am so happy to have you join me today. To start, please share with us just a little bit about your crew journey and then where you are currently living and what role you currently serve in.
Great. Hey, thanks, Beth, for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity. Well, I grew up in a church environment and I was always pretty religious, but my involvement with Campus Crusade for Christ, now Cru, was really a turning point in my life. At that time, I received assurance of my salvation. I learned the ministry of the Holy Spirit, and I captured the vision for helping fulfill the Great Commission in this generation. So when I graduated in 1976, I decided to temporarily put aside my personal plans and make a 3-year commitment to join the staff of Cru. Well, that was 50 years ago. And I'm still here. I'm still joyfully serving the Lord in the place where He called me to be. Of those 50 years, 39 of those years we were living in East Asia, 17 years in Taiwan, where I was campus ministry coordinator, new staff training coordinator, being able to help train our new staff in Taiwan. And then 22 years at the East Asia area office in Singapore as the new staff training coordinator. And then was invited to be the LDHR coordinator for East Asia. There I had the privilege and the opportunity to touch the lives of our staff in East Asia, to help equip our staff, to help them live out God's wonderful plan for their lives. Now I'm serving with the global LDHR team, living in Sacramento. Although my primary role is LDHR generalist, I've really enjoyed the opportunities to specialize in areas of member care, career path planning over these few years.
Fantastic. Well, I know I have benefited from a lot of your work, as I know many of our listeners have. So it's really great to have you here with us. So we were going through a series right now called Growing on Purpose, where we're looking at some tools and resources that are available to our staff. And on this particular episode, we are focusing on one of our internally developed resources, career path planning. To start us off, can you give us just a broad picture of what this tool is and what it's designed to do?
Sure. Broadly, career development for our members is helping them look to the future and make plans to grow and develop vocationally. Career path planning model that we use and the resources that we use were actually developed around 2010 as a result of a Center of Excellence event in Singapore, where we heard about the good work on this topic by Stephen McCoy from the U.S., Wilson Lau, and Moses Wong from Singapore. Through their good work, we developed our career path planning resources, which have been refined over the years. For our global audience, effort was made to condense and simplify the content for easy understanding, application, and translation as needed. In a nutshell, our career path planning resources are designed to help our members take the time needed to seek the Lord's guidance for His specific leading in their lives by reflecting on how He has uniquely made them, where they might make their best contribution as they serve Him, and what areas of development are needed, both now and for potential future ministry assignments.
I hear that. That's really helpful. And just even that time that it gives our staff to reflect of how God has made them and where their best contribution can be is fantastic. So I know we often hear career path planning in a variety of different contexts. In what ways is our approach similar and where does it intentionally differ?
The term career path planning is borrowed from the corporate world. It's an established business HR process. However, with our unique position as a full-time Christian ministry and as full-time Christian workers in a missionary organization, our foundational understanding of career path planning is quite a bit different than the secular model. The secular model is focused on my career. It's very me-centered. What do I want? How do I get there myself? Its goal is to climb up the corporate ladder of success for greater power, more money for my own benefit. But in our model, it's a spiritual exercise of focusing on God and His leading in my life, His specific calling for me. Howard Hendricks made this distinction. Your career is what you're paid to do. Your calling is what you're made to do. So we're concerned with how God has made us. What has God made me to do? It's God-centered. The primary motivation is how I can make my best contribution to please God and accomplish His mission. So for us, it's primarily a spiritual exercise of listening to God's leading, walking in humble obedience to Him. It's an exercise of discovering His plan, His will, His specific leading or calling for our lives. So because of this, we really need to make sure that we have a common understanding of what it means to be called by God and how we discern His calling. To help with this, Global LDHR has developed a supplemental document that summarizes our position on what the Bible means when it talks about God's call and how it applies to us both as an organization and individually. And it's called Bringing Clarity to Calling. I think you'll find it helpful.
That sounds great. And I think that's such an important distinction, the quote you said of what we're called to do versus what we're made to do. And I think there is maybe some overlap, hopefully, in that, but that is a helpful distinction. So, for those who really are trying to discern their calling, how does this tool help create space to listen for and recognize God's leading?
When it comes to our seeking God's leading for our lives and our personal calling, there's really no magic formula. But this resource helps a person take time to wait on the Lord and work through the process. The whole heart behind this tool is to help engage and facilitate the opportunity for a member to set aside adequate time to seek God's guidance, to listen to His direction. As we mentioned, as believers, the career path planning is a spiritual exercise of coming into God's presence, listening to His voice, being willing to follow His leading and direction. So this tool is designed to help facilitate that experience.
Building on that, I know many people often feel pressure to kind of figure out that calling. How does this tool then help shift that mindset from pressure to maybe more of a process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the pressure often comes from having the wrong focus in the process. If my focus is on me trying to figure out my calling and me needing to find the answers to make the choices on my own, well, the pressure can really feel heavy.
Yeah.
In our model, the focus should be on looking to the Lord and listening to His guidance and direction. We're seeking His plan, His will, His leading, not our own plans and preferences, but His specific calling for our lives. It's not my responsibility to try to find His will, but to seek Him and give Him the space to reveal His calling and leading to me. The model lays out a systematic process of seeking His leading, and this should help remove the pressure from me and help me rest in Him and wait for Him.
I like how you put that, changing that shift from trying to figure it out to more of that listening and seeking, waiting on the Lord. I think that is really helpful and a really helpful mind shift for us to make. What are some of the key areas or dimensions this tool invites us to reflect on as we walk through it?
Well, the main tool we use in this process is called the Career Pathway Map. By working through the map questions, you can identify the ways God has wired you and the dreams that He's placed in you that enable you to make your best contribution for His kingdom. The map's divided into 3 major sections. The first is to know your God-given design, desires, and calling. As you work through the know section of your career pathway map, you'll focus on how God has made you, including your gifts, your strengths and abilities, your personality type, the passions and burdens that He's put on your heart, and His particular calling and leading for you. The second section is discern, to discern your best contribution. Based on how God has uniquely designed you, you identify what your best contribution might be as you seek to serve Him. This includes clarifying your personal mission statement, describing your ideal role, and prayerfully exploring and prioritizing possible ministry options. The third section is on your growth and development. It's using the 5 E's of development. You plan action steps for greater fruitfulness, both in your current role and or to equip you for a future role.
Fantastic. I like the picture that is developing in my mind of this is taking lots of these different aspects of like knowing how we're made, lots of those different aspects of how God has made us, how we actually discern that and what we need to grow and develop, and kind of taking all of these pieces and putting into kind of one picture in one snapshot kind of can help us. I really like that picture that you are creating there. So, where do you find that people tend to get stuck when they're kind of thinking about their future and doing this planning? And how does this framework maybe help them move forward?
Well, everyone's unique. But I think probably the main area we see people get stuck in when thinking about their future is the tendency to rush the process, seeking immediate results and treating it as an intellectual exercise instead as a spiritual exercise. Many rush through step one or jump right into step two, listing possible ministry options without taking time to really understand how God has uniquely made them. Their gifts, their strengths, their abilities, their personality, the passions, and specific calling for them. As a result, they're unable to discern their best contribution and what their best ministry fit might be.
That resonates with me and maybe other people, that because it's a tool, you might want to rush through it of check, check, check. I've done this, I've done this. But it is more of a tool that allows us to slow down and kind of facilitates that process of seeking the Lord instead of just checking it off, but letting us process. And so I think that is a helpful reminder that even though it is a tool, it isn't made to be rushed through and just checked off, but we do want to seek the Lord in that. So after discerning all these areas, the career path planning tool asks us to plan for our continued development and growth with the 5 E's, which you just mentioned. What are the 5 E's and how are they a helpful framework for our growth and development?
Well, the 5 E's of development, very simply, are expose. Who are people who can model and mentor you in what you want to develop? The second is equip. What are some good courses or seminars or conferences to attend, or some good literature to read? Thirdly, it's experience. What are some hands-on experience opportunities to practice and enhance the skill? Then we have evaluate. What are some ways to receive valuable feedback from others? Or what assessment tools can you use? And then finally, environment. What kind of environment do you need in order to effectively grow and function in this area? These 5 E's actually cover all the key components for developmental growth.
Fantastic. And now, how often should someone revisit or update their career path plan? Is this more of a one-time exercise or an ongoing rhythm?
Oh, that's a great question. I do think that revisiting and updating your career path plan should be an ongoing rhythm. As servants of God's kingdom, it's good to periodically schedule extended time, maybe every 6 months or a year, to revisit and update our career path plan, to come into His presence, to seek His direction, and to ensure that we're still serving right in the center of His will, that we're still making our best contribution as we serve Him. Probably wouldn't need to spend the same depth, intensity that was required the first time, especially for section 1, where God's design and how He's wired you normally doesn't change significantly. But apart from a scheduled rhythm, we should also be sensitive to God as He uses changing circumstances to nudge us to revisit or update our career path plan.
It sounds like you're saying that the first time someone does this, it might take a little bit more time, just kind of thinking through, praying, processing, gathering all of this information, but using it, as a ongoing rhythm to check in, like, Lord, where are you still leading me? What has been going on in my life the past 6 months, past year that might have changed, like you said? Kind of how God has made us, wired us doesn't really change, but obviously our circumstances, the things around us do. Okay, maybe when I first go into this, it's going to take a little bit more time, but then to periodically come back to it, I think is really helpful. As you've walked people through this process, what are some of the aha moments that tend to surface?
Well, other than personally coaching people through the career path planning process, I've also had the opportunity to present 3 online workshops or cohort gatherings. And my favorite part is when the participants share their aha moments. There are many, but often it's the freedom that comes when a person realizes, hey, God has uniquely created me and called me to serve him. And now I know where I can make my best contribution to his service. I think too often our members just go through the motions of ministry without considering where their best fit is and where they can make their best contribution. And ministry can become a more of a burden than a blessing. The career path planning process can help us serve in joy and freedom.
That's beautiful of just realizing where people can give their best contribution, not just going through the motions, not getting tied up with the day to day, but maybe even just taking that step back to get that bigger picture of what's going on. That is a beautiful picture because we are each uniquely created and have a unique purpose that God wants to use us in that way. So, how might team leaders or even ministry leaders use this tool not just for themselves, but as a way to develop and care for the people they lead?
In LDHR, we desire that every member feels known, needed, and that they have a future. And we also desire that every person is able to be serving in the right place, at the right time, and with the right equipping. Team leaders play an important role in helping make this a reality. I encourage team leaders to see this tool as a way to help inspire their team members to draw near to God, to seek His leading for their lives so that they can ensure they're serving right in the center of His will. Team leaders can share the resource with members for them to use, or even take some time to walk with them through the career path planning process to help them determine God's specific leading in their lives. They can also help them consider different ministry options where they can make their best contributions as they serve the Lord. One more story about how a national ministry can use this tool. When tracking staff movement trends, a large East Asian country discovered that a significant number of staff were leaving the organization around their 5th year on staff. I had the privilege of working with a career pathway coach in that country to set a goal to walk through the career pathway process with each staff member in his region who had served for 5 years or more. Through his initiative to walk through the process with them, staff were encouraged. Staff were motivated to find their best fit as they served the Lord. Many expressed that they truly felt known, needed, and that they have a future. And the ministry actually saw a decrease in this trend.
That's fantastic. So, Dennis, if a team leader or a ministry leader are listening to this and say, oh, this sounds amazing, I want to do this, but I'm just so busy, what would you say to them to help them maybe overcome that barrier to maybe utilize this tool a bit more?
Yeah, the reality is our plate is only so big. And we are very busy. Our movement is very charge. And yeah, I know team leaders have so much on their plate, but to assess priority, what would be a priority for my team? It's a proven fact that fulfilled team members can accomplish a lot more than unfulfilled team members. The
Mhm.
team members who know they're making their best contribution can be more effective than team members who don't. And so I would say consider prioritizing this to help your staff feel known, needed, and have a future.
That's a helpful perspective. Thank you. And as you have built and used this tool and have taught this tool over time, how has it shaped you personally, Dennis?
Huh. Well, yeah, of course, there have been many areas, but I guess the key one is the understanding of God's unique design and desires in my life. I'm able to make choices for ministry opportunities through the filter of my personal mission and what my best contribution would be. There are so many things that could be done, and I'll never be able to do them all. So, this helps me prioritize and make good choices on how to invest my time. Now, of course, there's no perfect ministry fit. There'll always be things in my responsibility that I'm required to do that I don't really enjoy doing. But if I can ensure that at least 60, maybe even 70% of the things I do are done in my areas of strength and interest, then I can be a lot more fulfilled and fruitful in ministry.
Thank you for sharing a little bit of how it shaped you. And I think many people can resonate with that there are so many things that could be done. There are so many tasks to be done. Ministry keeps going, but having a tool that helps us reflect to say, what can I do? What can I bring that's the best and how God can use that, I think is really, really helpful. So, as we just wrap up, what's maybe one practical next step you'd invite our listeners to take as they continue to explore their calling?
Yeah. And very simply, just take the next step to become more familiar with career path planning and the process. Here are some ideas. Check out the Career Pathways page on LDHR.org. That will help you understand the process more. And actually, we're in the process of revamping this page so that it will be even more practical and usable for you. Secondly, prayerfully fill up the career pathway map. You can follow the instructions on page 1 and just take some time to go through each of the 3 steps. Thirdly is read the article, Bringing Clarity to Calling. It's very helpful to understand what it means to be called by God. And then fourthly, I would just encourage you to share the career pathway map with others. Thanks so much, Beth, for the opportunity to share about this important tool and this process.
Of course. And you listed lots of great resources just now. So we'll make sure we put links to all of those in our show notes so people can easily find them. But thank you, Dennis, so much for walking us through this tool and all your work you've done on it to bring it to so many people.
Thank you, Beth.
I hope this conversation with Dennis has helped you see career path planning not as something to figure out all at once, but as an ongoing invitation to listen to God, to respond, and to grow. We'd love to hear what stood out to you from today's conversation, or how you're beginning to think about your own calling. And if this episode was helpful, please consider sharing it with someone who's in a similar season of discernment. Thanks for joining us on the LDHR Podcast. We'll see you next time.